I never thought I'd be the villain in my own son's love story. But here I am, Clarice Taylor, the woman who almost destroyed her child's chance at happiness. It's not a role I'm proud of, but it's one I've come to terms with. This is my story of redemption, of how I learned that love isn't about control but about letting go. Charleston, South Carolina, is a city steeped in history and tradition. It's where I raised my son Evan to be the man he is today, successful, charming, and kind. I thought I knew what was best for him. I thought I could protect him from the world's cruelties. But in trying to shield him, I became the very thing I feared. When Evan first introduced me to Lily Montgomery, I saw only what I wanted to see. A pretty face with her eyes on our family's fortune. I couldn't fathom that this simple schoolteacher could genuinely love my son for who he was, not what he had. "You don't know what you're getting into, Evan," I warned him one evening as we sat in our living room, the Charleston harbor visible through the large windows. "She's not from our world. She doesn't understand our responsibilities." Evan's eyes, so like his father's, looked at me with a mixture of disappointment and determination. "Mom, Lily's not after our money. She loves me for me. Why can't you see that?" But I couldn't see it. Or rather, I refused to. In my mind, I was protecting him, our family, our legacy. Looking back, I realize I was only protecting my own fears and insecurities. As their relationship grew stronger, my resolve to end it intensified. I began to orchestrate a plan that would drive a wedge between them. It started small. A few whispered doubts here, a manipulated situation there. But it wasn't enough. Evan's love for Lily was stronger than I had anticipated. Desperate times called for desperate measures. I couldn't stand by and watch my son throw away his future on a woman I was certain was wrong for him. So I did what any concerned mother would do. I hired a private investigator. The detective, a gruff man named Frank, promised to dig up every speck of dirt on Lily's past. "Leave no stone unturned," I told him, writing a check that made even my accountant raise an eyebrow. Days turned into weeks and Frank's reports came up empty. Lily's past was frustratingly clean. No secret boyfriends, no hidden debts, not even a parking ticket. But I refused to believe that someone could be that perfect. I took matters into my own hands, reaching out to old acquaintances from Lily's hometown. I spoke to her former teachers, neighbors, even the local gossip. Each conversation left me more frustrated than the last. Everyone had nothing but praise for Lily, her kindness, her dedication to her students, her volunteer work at the local shelter. As a last resort, I even tried to bribe a former classmate of Lily's, hoping he might fabricate some scandalous story. But he just laughed and said, "Ma'am, you're barking up the wrong tree. Lily's always been a saint." Defeated and disheartened, I sat in my study, staring at the stack of reports that painted a picture of a woman who was genuinely good. For the first time, I questioned whether I was the one in the wrong. Was I really protecting my son, or was I sabotaging his chance at true happiness? The realization hit me hard. I had spent so much time and energy trying to find flaws in Lily that I had failed to see her virtues. But even as doubt began to creep in, I couldn't let go of my suspicions. I was too far in to back out now. Little did I know, my actions were about to set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I falsified documents, creating a paper trail that made it look like Lily was involved in a scheme to defraud our family business. It was meticulous work, born from desperation and a misguided sense of duty. The day I presented these proofs to Evan was the day I saw something in my son's eyes that I had never seen before: betrayal. The hurt and confusion that clouded his face should have been enough to make me confess right then and there. But I didn't. I watched as he struggled with the information, his world crumbling around him. "This can't be true," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Lily wouldn't, she couldn't." I pressed on, twisting the knife. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I know how much you cared for her. But we have to protect ourselves, our family." The next few weeks were a blur of pain and confusion. Evan broke things off with Lily, unable to confront her with what he believed to be the truth. I watched from the sidelines as my son's heart broke, telling myself it was for the best. But as the days turned into weeks, I began to see the toll it was taking on Evan. The light in his eyes dimmed, his smile became forced, and he threw himself into work with a fervor that bordered on obsession. This wasn't the protection I had envisioned. This was destruction. It was during this time that Jason, Evan's childhood friend, began to make his presence known. I saw the way he looked at Lily, the way he tried to comfort her in Evan's absence. A part of me hoped that Lily would move on, that it would prove I was right all along. But Lily's devotion never wavered, even as she struggled to understand why Evan had left her. One afternoon, I overheard a conversation between Lily and Jason in a small cafe near the Battery. "I just don't understand, Jason," Lily said, her voice thick with unshed tears. "Everything was perfect and then suddenly, it wasn't. Evan won't even talk to me." Jason reached across the table, taking her hand. "Maybe it's time to move on, Lily. Well, you know how I feel about you." Lily gently withdrew her hand. "I appreciate your friendship, Jason, but my heart belongs to Evan. It always will." As I listened, something inside me began to crack. The devotion in Lily's voice, the pain she was willing to endure. It wasn't the act of a gold digger or a fraud. It was love, pure and simple. The weight of what I had done began to crush me. I had been so wrong, so terribly wrong. But how could I fix it? How could I undo the damage I had caused? The answer came in the most unexpected way. A few days later, I received a call from the hospital. Evan had been in a car accident. As I rushed to his side, all I could think was, "Please let him be okay. I'll make this right. I promise." Evan's injuries weren't life-threatening, but as I sat by his hospital bed watching him sleep, I knew I couldn't carry this burden any longer. When he opened his eyes, I confessed everything. The look of betrayal I saw earlier was nothing compared to what I saw now. Evan's voice was cold when he finally spoke. "Get out. I don't want to see you right now." I left the hospital room, my heart shattered but knowing I deserved every ounce of his anger. As I walked down the hallway, I saw Lily rushing towards Evan's room, worry etched on her face. Our eyes met for a moment and I saw the confusion and hurt in hers. I couldn't face her, not yet. I turned and walked away, knowing that my journey to make things right was just beginning. The weeks that followed were the hardest of my life. Evan refused to speak to me and I couldn't blame him. I had betrayed his trust in the worst possible way. But I was determined to make amends no matter how long it took. I started by gathering all the evidence of my deception. Every falsified document, every manipulated piece of information. I compiled it all. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to see Lily. She agreed to meet me at Battery Park, where her story with Evan had begun. As we walked along the seawall, the warm Charleston breeze carrying the scent of salt water and jasmine, I laid bare my sins. "I don't expect you to forgive me," I said, handing her the folder containing all the evidence. "But I want you to know the truth. Evan never stopped loving you. I'm the one who tore you apart." Lily was silent for a long time, her eyes scanning the documents, her face a mixture of shock and pain. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. Why would you do this?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to meet her gaze. "Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my son, afraid of change, afraid that you would hurt him. But in trying to protect him, I became the very thing I feared." Lily's next words surprised me. "I understand fear, Mrs. Taylor. It's what kept me from reaching out to Evan, from fighting harder when he pushed me away. But love is stronger than fear." Her words hit me like a tidal wave, washing away the last of my defenses. For the first time I saw Lily for who she truly was, kind, strong, and deeply in love with my son. "What can I do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lily's answer was simple. "Tell Evan the truth. And then, let him make his own choices." And so I did. I went to Evan, laid out everything I had done, and prepared myself for his rejection. But my son, my beautiful, forgiving son, surprised me once again. "I'm angry, Mom," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "What you did, it's going to take time for me to forgive. But you're my mother and I love you. We'll work through this." The road to redemption was long and often painful. There were days when the weight of what I'd done threatened to crush me. But slowly, with patience and perseverance, we began to heal. Evan and Lily found their way back to each other, their love stronger for having weathered the storm I had created. And I learned to let go, to trust in the man I had raised, and to open my heart to the woman he loved. It all came to a head at the annual Charleston Garden Party, held in Battery Park. As I watched Evan and Lily walk hand in hand, facing the curious glances and whispered comments of Charleston's elite, I knew it was time for me to take a stand. I approached them, aware of the eyes upon us. "Evan, Lily," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet gathering. "I owe you both a public apology. I tried to come between you, and in doing so, I nearly destroyed the happiness of the two people I care about most in this world. I was wrong, and I'm sorry." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, to my amazement, Lily stepped forward and took my hand. "Family isn't just about blood, Mrs. Taylor. It's about love, forgiveness, and second chances. We're offering you that chance." Evan joined us, placing his hand over ours. "We're stronger together, Mom. All of us." As we stood there, united in front of all of Charleston, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I had been given a second chance, an opportunity to be a part of something beautiful instead of trying to control it. In the months that followed, I watched as Evan and Lily's love continued to blossom. I saw the way they supported each other, challenged each other, and made each other better. And I realized that this unconditional, all-encompassing love was what I had always wanted for my son. Their wedding was a testament to the power of love and forgiveness. As I watched them exchange vows in the historic St. Michael's Church, tears streaming down my face, I knew that my journey of redemption was complete. I had learned the most valuable lesson of all. That love, in its purest form, is about letting go and allowing those we care about to find their own happiness. So to those who might find themselves standing where I once stood, teetering on the edge of making a terrible mistake, I offer this advice. Trust in love. Trust in the people you've raised and the values you've instilled in them. And most importantly, trust that sometimes the best thing you can do for those you love is to step back and let them fly. As for me, Clarice Taylor, once the antagonist in my son's love story, I've found peace in my new role, not as a controller but as a supporter. I've learned that family can grow and change, and that love, when given the chance, can heal even the deepest wounds. So I ask you, have you ever stood in the way of someone's happiness thinking you knew best? And if so, how did you find your way back to the right path? Share your stories, your struggles, and your triumphs. Because in the end, we're all on this journey together, learning and growing one step at a time. Don't forget to follow for more stories of love, redemption, and the beautiful, messy journey we call life. And remember, there's a whole playlist of exclusive stories waiting for you. Stories that will make you laugh, cry, and believe in the power of second chances. Will you join us on this journey?